Coach Sully, Reps and Sweat, Martial Arts and Fitness. This is Mat Chat. As you guys see, my backdrop is a little bit different. We have moved locations to a really nicer spot. We got a boxing ring, more mat space, a really nice space that flows the way I like it to flow. So I feel really blessed and lucky to have stumbled on this opportunity. But anyway, today what I wanted to talk about is reality methods of training versus sport methods of training. So by reality methods, I'm talking about disciplines like Krav Maga, and then you have the other one, it's called Systema, I believe it is. These reality, I guess, based martial arts. And you see a lot of the videos online where the main person that's demonstrating, they're doing these elaborate 12-move demonstrations on pretty much compliant, I would say, training partners or assistants. You see those videos and they look really cool, and a lot of the movies it probably got popular with the Born Supremacy, those movie series, when they're doing this really realistic looking choreography, and I think a lot of it comes from those Krav Maga, Systema kind of martial arts. But I wanted to give you guys a bit of insight on, because a lot of times when you're talking about especially when we're talking about self-defense, when you find yourself interested in self-defense, then the question becomes, where should I train? What discipline should I train? Which disciplines are going to be the most effective? And when you go to these systems like the Krav Maga, and I'm not here to bash any sort of martial arts or any sort of self-defense systems. I think that they are all useful, and I think that all of them, 99% of them, put their practitioners in a better situation with the knowledge that they teach them. So, I want to get that out the way. I'm not here to bash any martial arts system. But a lot of times, those places, when they're comparing to maybe a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or maybe an MMA, a kind of a sport-centered, sport-inspired discipline, their biggest rebuttal is that it's not real. This is realistic. And they have a lot of these kill shot type techniques. I'm gonna punch you in the throat and shatter your trachea, and I'm being a little dramatic, but they are training to inflict that sort of major damage on an opponent, on an attacker, and so that's their biggest rebuttal. They're saying that, well, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is great, but I'm trained if the guy has a knife, and if the person has this, or if it's multiple people, and so on and so forth. So I wanted to give my perspective on that whole conversation. And again, I will say that I'm not here to bash anybody's system. I think that you should learn as much about everything as you possibly can. but I'm here just to make a educated observation onto and give folks some perspective if they find themselves in a situation where they are deciding whether to take the realistic route or the sport oriented route, if they're trying to answer that question. So, like I said, their biggest rebuttal is that the sport approach is not realistic. It's not meant for the street. It's not meant to kill. It's not meant to save you in a life or death situation. You know, and ever since the UFC, because prior to the UFC, you had folks walking around telling people that they can basically pull somebody's pumping heart out of their chest. You have people walking around teaching people or claiming to teach people how to do these one-punch kill shots. You even have folks out there teaching or claiming, again, claiming to teach people how to use telepathic forces to defend themselves. So you had a lot of claims, a lot of promises coming from the martial arts community. But then here comes the UFC. And especially in the earlier UFCs, the discussion was whose martial art was superior, whose stuff really worked. And it was funny because on those early shows, you had Grandmaster, Dragon. It was those guys turned up. Some of them turned up. Some of them came to put their skills to the test. And of course, as you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu basically walked away winning that argument. But since then, when a lot of these places are, or a lot of these disciplines are making these claims, then the next natural question is, okay, well, how come such and such XYZ flying crane dragon martial art, how come they don't have a champion in mixed martial arts? The testing ground is already up. The laboratory has been built. Any claim that anybody wants to make can be made, can be proven. There's a place to do that now. But still, a lot of them are still saying that, well, I can't take my techniques into a sport arena. A lot of the stuff that I do is banned. My martial art is intended to kill. So that's the new rebuttal. So, according to my observation, first of all, any time that I meet someone who trains, any of those, I'm not going to keep name dropping them. I don't want people to think that I'm targeting a particular martial arts discipline. But anytime that I meet anybody who trains those kind of reality-based kill shot type martial arts, they're always injured. They always blown out their knee, and throughout this, and I'm not going to make the claim that on the sports side, injuries don't happen. But fundamentally, and we're talking about, and I'm talking to people who might be on the fence as to which one they want to go with. Fundamentally, and a sport, when you take a sport, and we'll use mixed martial arts, we'll use Thai boxing, we'll use Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The goal of, first of all, the sport, and especially we're talking about combat sport, the goal of the sport is to take the very dangerous aspects out of it and play with the rest. The goal is to do it as safely as possible. The goal is also to train the athlete so that they are healthy and can perform on show day. So fundamentally, the sports approach is an approach to learn the skill set, particularly when we're talking about mixed martial arts and combat sports, is to learn the skill set in the safest way possible. That's their goal. That's the goal. So right there, we're already kind of seeing the advantages of taking the sport route. When you take a martial art that is contingent upon me poking someone's eyes out, contingent upon some sort of pain compliance, contingent upon throwing kicks to blow out the person that's standing in front of you's knees. How do you train that in a safe environment? How can you train a throat punch in a safe environment? Training how to aim a punch at somebody's throat and blow out their trachea and like I said before, starting off, I said every time I stumble on somebody and we have oh, you train? Oh yeah, I train too. Oh man, my knees are blown out. You can't train them if your technique is grabbing somebody's nuts and twisting them three rotations to the right and 3 rotations to the left. How do you get good at that without destroying somebody's nuts? And I'm being ridiculous, but that's kind of how I always looked at it. But now, on the sports side, I believe there's a mindset that needs to be adapted into a real situation. You can take an athlete that doesn't have situational awareness, and that athlete will find themselves in a dangerous situation on the streets in a real life scenario. So the mindset, the willingness to do fatal damage, the ability to step outside of the rule set into a world of no rules. I've seen a very, very good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner get into a fight at a bar, armbar the person, and the person taps and they let go. And then their friends came and stomped the hell out of him while he was laying on the back. But that doesn't mean that that jiu-jitsu person doesn't have the right skill set. He just didn't have the right frame of mind to apply that skill set in a no rules context. So the disadvantage of a sports approach is in the mindset, but practically you can't beat the sport. You can't beat the sport approach. You're training to perform. You're training things like your timing. You're training things like your endurance. You're making you're creating serious complex muscle memory. You can, and then again, the fact that I can't take the aspect of the real life discipline, I can't take the thing that makes it what it is. If you pull throats out of people's necks, and I'm being ridiculous again, where do you get to sharpen that technique at? Who's lining up to train with you? So how do you know that you can get the timing right? Put your hand exactly where it needs to be. And especially when you hear about these pressure, and I'm not knocking the pressure point guys. But in order to apply these complex pressure points, I need to have full control over my opponent, over the person that's attacked, over the person that I'm fighting. So even if I want to apply a lethal technique, I'm going to need a foundation of functional skill sets to support it. If I can't pin a person down, I'm not going to be able to get to that pressure point. So to sum it up, the sport approach will develop the skill set. It'll make it practical. It'll make it muscle memory. You'll have the conditioning. The real life approach, I think, does a better job at developing the mindset. Okay, I'm punching to kill. I'm grabbing to kill. I'm looking to break. So they both have their benefits. I just believe that the sport approach has more practical benefits. And the only difference, as far as I'm concerned, is the mindset. And I don't need to train punching somebody in the balls to get the mindset in order to do that. So take it for what it is. Hopefully that was helpful and educational. Hopefully it was understandable. But anyway, gotta run. Coach Sully, Reps and Sweat, Martial Arts and Fitness. This was Matt Chat.